Ew. What's the very first deck? Is Red Deck the first deck? It didn't sync my cloud profile, so... Just some white stakes. Where do you put the person when you play Balatro? Over here? Oh, come on. Get out of here. That's so many draws. Even this probably doesn't hit it, right? It's like 296 or something. 296. Get out of here. I'm not gonna get a freaking seance. It's too weird. Straight flushes this early? It's not gonna happen. Oh my gosh. Vagabond run? That means I gotta get under $4. I guess that's the way to do it. Per hand played, right? Should we just kill low stuff? Hey everybody, I'm just waiting for people to show up, so I thought I'd just, play a little Balatro, see what's up. We can play a bunch of hands for Taros. Y'all play Balatro? Ooh, that's gonna have to just hang out a minute. And now we can actually play some hands. Does this win? No. It'll be like 360, right? So 380. 2 pair takes it home. Charioted it up. You probably won't actually just sit here and play Balatro. All right. What happens if I quit? Should I do something for real? Okay. Chrome Canary. There we go. Thanks. What's up, Emmett? Thanks for coming. My goal today was to start with a little bit of... I've had this just in my head forever, as this idea of like making a list of the things that are so hard to know when you're looking at a flat design mock-up, like back in the day we would have done with Photoshop or Illustrator or something, or Sketch or Figma or whatever. It's not to like crap on these tools. I use them. I like them. I think it's a good way to design, but there's like forever there's been more and more, then more, then more, then more things you can do on the web that are difficult to express in a tool like Figma. And what I have in mind is like, just like a button, there are states to a button like hover and focus and active. That how do you express those in Figma? And they have answers to these questions. And again, this isn't to like crap on those tools in any way. The idea is like they even have variants in Figma. So they thought of this and they implemented their own special thing in Figma for doing this. That you create a component, those components have variants, and then when you use the component, you have opportunities to make the variant. So it's not like there's no way to do this type of thing in Figma, but it's like not the same way. And you have to learn this way. So then potentially you need to know how to do it in Figma, and you need to know how to do it outside of Figma as well. And it's just one little example. So that's the kind of thing I wanted to write down. I'll just do this. Notes on design to implementation, implementation. Why is that so hard to spell? Issues, complications, something like that. And it's also like a little bit of a opportunity to show off this idea in the new CodePen, where you can like switch languages within a document when you're in an HTML document. So I could write in Pug or Haml or the other HTML-like languages just by saying which language I want on a div. So in this case, I'm just writing in Markdown just because I think that it's easier. So I wanted to start with that idea of state. That state is one of the things that's a little bit hard to think about. So it's like, imagine you had a button. That button would have a hover state. It would have an active state. It would have a focus state. Okay, that's true. But it also might have a color mode, dark and light and other. It might have high contrast mode. There's just stuff going on. And that's not only just true of buttons. It's just, and button or a link really, or any kind of interactive element would have these states. And that's a little bit hard to mock up. I mean, we could do it, but I'm just saying that there's kind of challenges to that. And that this list isn't particularly short is the issue. So I thought we'd look at some design galleries and just kind of make a full list, because it makes kind of a nice way to explain to somebody or have a conversation about design, to be like, hey, I love these tools. I want to design, but just know that there's a lot of challenges here, and that's fair. I started thinking about it from this podcast I had bookmarked called Complementary, which I think they do. It's a design podcast that does a pretty good job, I think. I'm a little outside of the world of design, I guess. Like, how many good design podcasts are there? Probably a lot. I think I subscribe to this one only. Maybe some Debbie stuff here and there, but I don't know. I don't listen to a lot of it. Pretty challenging to just only talk about design, but I think they do a pretty good job of it. So yeah, I don't know how popular it is or how many other ones there are. I should listen to more because I enjoy that world and still kind of fancy myself, or I look up to designers. You know, like I want to be a designer when I grow up, kind of thing. Cool. So there's probably some ideas in here that I've forgotten about, so I need to re-listen to it before I get there. But that's kind of where it came from. But this conversation is as old as time. As a matter of fact, I think there's, it was almost, I consider it like a rite of passage for a lot of like famous designers to say like, the problem with design is tooling, and that there's a disconnect between what happens on the web and what happens in the tool. And someday the perfect tool will emerge and it will be the same. And I've had those thoughts many times, thinking that like, if somebody could just put a design tool in the browser, maybe there's a way. Maybe there is a perfect design tool will emerge. And then we got Figma, and Figma is in the web, but it's just a canvas of it. This isn't actually a div that I can play with. I think this is all just rendered on canvas or something. It's not actually like representing how websites lay out. Just on Shop Talk this week, we had a fellow from a website called Hot Page that's a little bit trying to be like that. It's drag and drop, and you're controlling the CSS properties. There's Webflow that replicates largely what's happening on a website and gives you a bunch of control over what's going on, and that this is rendered like a web page is rendered. So things push and pull against each other like they do in a real website. Not that there's still not challenges in Webflow, certainly there is, but it's like closer to designing in that particular way, I happen to think that a pretty good abstraction for design for building a website is the code, is the HTML and CSS and JavaScript. But that's not to say it's like the only way to build a website is like, you should design in the browser and that's it. As a matter of fact, I often don't only design in the browser. I often pop out to Figma or other design tools to think about things in a different way. So I'm not hard line about that, but I do think at some point, the sooner the better that you move away from these tools and get into the browser, because this list that we're about to create is like going to probably be like pretty long, I would think. And maybe a way to flesh out that list is to make the list and to look at some design galleries and stuff like that. Like look at a website and be like, boy, that would be hard to interact with, wouldn't it? So things like state. State is just a difficult thing to mock up in some way. Not that it can't be done, but it's a challenge and it is often forgotten. Like, can't you imagine being in Figma and being like, okay, that's the regular state, and actually there is no fill on the hover state. The fill is that same blue color, but has, this instead. So this is the regular state and this is the hover state. And you just like explain it to somebody looking at this document. And then they could see it and be like, okay, I can implement that. That's fine. So now you've done it. You made hover. You did hover. Did you do active? Did you do focus? Focus is already notoriously something that's forgotten in design. Not that I have millions of hours of experience working in big design shops where I'm intimate with the design flow, but I'm sure as hell look at a bunch of websites, and it just, from people I've talked to and the websites that I look at, you can just tell nobody really thought about or cared about the focus state, And to some degree, that's on browsers for making sure that the default focus states look good. But that can be a problem, too, because when they don't look good, then designers remove them. And now we've caused not only did we not think about or design a focus state, we straight up removed the basic ones that were there. And then we're in problem territory. So the fact that focus states are hard to think about and design is just, it has snowball effects to the negative of the web sometimes. Not to be a big bummer. But there's other things too. Let's say we had a bunch of, a classic one is the viewport, essentially. So what we might think of as responsive design or whatever. The idea that screens of multiple sizes. We can see that sometimes, and isn't there like a thing, and not to make this a thing about Figma sites, but didn't they have like how do I do this? I just want to show it because it seemed like an abstraction that was kind of weird. We'll use one of their templates, I suppose. And here's the home page. How do I look at it? Do I have to play it? I just want to see it. Do you just zoom into it? Oh yeah, okay. So that's already unusual looking. They did the classic thing. They did one of the things that not long after Ethan declared responsive design, it was starting to think about maybe we shouldn't be working in this way, where we think of just 3 sizes. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's just what if there's something at, say, 1,000 pixels that's really unusual? Why do we have to think about it as just these 3 specific breakpoints? Maybe that's not the way to think about it. Can we get away from thinking about hardline breakpoints? That's the idea, is when you make a tool like this, it's you have to make concessions. And the concession that was made here is we're just going to do 3 breakpoints. And that's just going to be the way it is. Well, fine. I get it. But that puts it on the list then. It's not there's another way of thinking about this that's just anything that's fluid. It's really, that's kind of what we're getting at. Anything that is fluid is hard to design when you're not working in a fluid place. I can't grab this edge and drag it around and resize it. I think maybe you can in some other tools. Does Webflow have a thing like that? Or do they work in a world where it's just hard breakpoints too? They could probably do it either way. I'm not sure. It's not impossible for a tool to do, but I feel like it's much more likely. And I've done this many times as well. I probably don't even do 3 a lot of times in the designs that I do. I probably just do desktop and mobile a lot of times, because a lot of times I'm the person implementing it. So I'll make the choices. Once I get to code, I'll know what to do. And if there's awkwardness, I'll figure it out. But sometimes when they're different teams or totally 2 different people doing the design and implementation, that's where the challenges come in. And they're mostly just trying to match exactly what's going on here. And a temptation can be, I'm actually going to hard code a media query that when it is smaller than this size, it's just going to jump down to this other size because I don't want to think about the fluidity of it. It's anything that is fluid. It's it's easy to not think about the fluidity in a way. Like, I don't want to. That wasn't expressed in the design document, so I'm not going to make choices about how fluid things could be because whatever. That could be a possibility. I mean, I would, you would, maybe, but I wouldn't blame somebody for thinking like, I'm just going to do a hard breakpoint because that's what I see in the design tool. That kind of thing. So anything that's happening with the viewport is weird that way. So it could be both sides, like it's width and height. You know, it's like, what do you do when the browser window is really narrow? Well, what do you do when the browser window is really short too? You know, are we thinking about the fold, they used to call it, and people used to rally against that and say there is no fold, and then people would rally against that and say there is a. How'd you know? Did you rewind, Dave? We can go back to Belantro if you want, but it wouldn't load my cloud profile, so I'm starting at like red deck, white stake, locked jokers. It was wild. But what do we do when the browser window is too short too? Like there's things to be made there. Or the people that pushed back against there is no fold to be like, well, you still need to think about priority. You still need to think about putting the important things higher up the page, that kind of thing. So how tall is a document? I don't know. Figma don't care. You know, these are just, I don't know, they're arbitrarily tall and there's a footer at the bottom or whatever. But like, have we thought about in this design? Is it communicated in this design? This is up top because it's very important. This is up top because it's very important. Or did we just not think about that because the design tool it doesn't make you think about it? So that's a possible thing to think about. So anything fluid, but think of like the CSS expressions of fluidity sometimes. So when we're saying anything fluid, like the CSS expressions can be like, there's a common thing where you go grid, template, columns, and then it's just like repeat, autofill, you know, min, max, 200 pixels, 1FR or whatever. I forget the exact incantation of it, but the point is, I don't want to say how many columns. This is me saying, I don't want to pick how many columns. The browser should do that based on the content. Yeah, that's a nice way to work. I think that's what Jen Simmons was getting at, is one expression of that when she says intrinsic design. Elements have, it's even like a real word in HTML and CSS. Like, what's the intrinsic size of like this little image down here in DevTools? Like, it will have one. In fact, if we go open image in new tab, we'll see that it has it's 320 pixels wide. The intrinsic size of that image is 320 pixels as like a technical term, and it's smashed down or whatever. But if you were to just let it breathe and apply no CSS at all to it, it would render as 320 pixels wide. Content generally, text and images and media and stuff, has certain sizes that they want to be. And then we like apply a little bit of layout to a page, but we try to apply not too much, letting the content kind of flow with it, you know? Andy Bell probably has some fancy way of explaining how that is. Like, go with the flow, man. Be the browser's, what does he say? Be the browser's manager, not boss, or he's got some way of saying it that's nice. Be a manager, not a micromanager. I forget. Anyway, there's lots of expressions like this in CSS that are like, how do you say that in Figma or any other design tool? How do you express that? You'd probably just have to make like a little arrow and point to it and write some text up here and be like, you know, just as many columns as you need, or something. Like, you can't say it well. You just need to know that. And how would, like, let's say you mostly work, be the browser's mentor, not its manager, Dave. We'll add that to the thing. Is that readable? I feel like Ecamm Live needs to. What does this slider do? Oh, it just makes Dave bigger and smaller. That's funny. Not very readable, though. I wish I could set the background color on that better. Yeah, I don't know. If you live in Figma, your main job is in Figma, do you even know that you can set absolutely fluid number of columns? Do you even know that? And if you do know that, how do you express that? All that stuff is just complicated. Right on. So that's kind of fluidity in a way. Fluid columns is weird. Where's my little internal list of this? Fluid type can be an issue too. Like, isn't that neat? Like, have you ever fluid type? I don't have a perfect demo up here. Oh, this is actually the one that I like. Can I resize my browser window and you can see it? Do they use it? Do they not use fluid type on the fluid type website? That is tremendous. You'd think that they would maybe dog food that a little bit. But it's this kind of thing. You've probably seen this before. You clamp the size, but you know, so there's a minimum and a maximum, which is great. And then you put the ideal size in the middle, or the scaler in the middle. It's just a nice way to work. How do you do that in a design tool? How do you express that in a design tool that says, see this text up here? I know I've set a text, you know, Figma has some pixel value or something that it's applied to it. Actually, units are probably an interesting one to think about in general, but how would you say that? Fluid type? Impossible? Like, but that would be something that like a real visual designer would care like a ton about. You know, like if you said to them, oh, I could, you know, we could have all kinds of fluid type possibilities. You know, the line height can change based on the viewport and all this. You'd think they'd be highly interested in that. And then, but you'd really just got to write in a mock-up like this. You just got to be like, I don't know, let's have that conversation elsewhere or something. I don't know. Units is all by itself is an interesting one. That's almost like a high level one. Units, like the world of web design mostly isn't pixels. Mostly, I feel like, at least in my work, I just prefer using something more abstract than that. I just tend to use REMS because I think it's nice, it's scalable, and I like that it's just this arbitrary number. Like thinking abstractly on perfect is nice. So like, where are REMS in design tools? Dave's saying they're just completely absent, you know. He mentions the LH unit specifically. That's the line height unit. Have you used it? It is really nice. I like the line height unit for LH unit for padding, you know, where it's like the padding outside of a box is like exactly the size of one line of text. It's just a nice feel to it, you know. I like the CH unit for setting the widths. I like the max inline size of a paragraph. It's such a nice feeling when you go like max inline size 60 CH or something. You're just your paragraph specifically, or P, LI. You know, just do those two elements, but then let your headers go longer because they're bigger anyway. It's just a nice thing to express. How do you express that in a design tool like that? So units can be pretty weird. A big one that's, I think, pretty obvious is anything scrolling related, like really especially super duper difficult, like position fixed. How do you express that it's fixed? Anything is fixed ever. Position sticky. How are you going to do that? Scroll-driven animations. How are you going to do that? Horizontal scrolling. How do you express that? I mean, in Figma, the conceit is, I don't know, just make the stupid, what do they call the tool with the you draw the box and then that's like the official thing. Oh, it's going to bug me now. Back to files. Make a design document. This one, the little hashy one, a frame. If you to signify vertical scrolling at Figma, you just go, oh, this thing is just super duper duper tall, obviously. So like obviously it scrolls. But if something's horizontal, what do? That? No, nobody does that in Figma. Horizontal scrolling is just like off the table somehow. It's just weird. And it's not dunking again. Like I feel like a need to be like, Figma rules. This is like my favorite tool for a lot of this stuff. No problem. It's about the challenges. It's just weird. How do you signify that? Do you Google like Figma scroll bar components, and then you're hoping that there's like a little thingy that has little copy and paste scroll bars that you can get. Oh, thanks, Andre. I'll give you another one, another heart. And I'll grab your little component. I don't know what all this is, but I'm just looking for something to copy and paste in here. Know it. I don't care about the instructions. I just want this thing. Gimme it. Close. Because I'm just going to come to my other Figma tab and paste it. That's all I want in the world. And I don't even like the way these look because they look too fake. I want ones that look nice, like real browsers. But hey, I did it. And then I'll just rotate it. And there. Now I have properly expressed. Ooh, it's nice though. See, Figma does do smart stuff with lots of things. But what do you call that in Figma when it can expand without breaking its aspect ratios and stuff? They have the concept of fluid design in there. Pretty nice. Auto layout. There you go, Dave. That's nice. And this is like, okay, but all this is saying is like, this is just a way of, instead of a designer going like, this area horizontally scrolls. So if there is more content than fits, it should have a scroll bar. And then this is the clutch moment, is that you have to use a font that's like, why is it default to 4? It seems a little small for default. I always set it in like sketch like this. That way, oh my God, the line height sucks too. That way, this isn't for the design. This is me talking about the design. Is your Figma documents full of this? I do that too. I mean, you can just use their built-in tools, right? You can be like, ask Chris about this. Guy asked me because it's got some meaning and I don't want to describe it in this Figma document. All right, so anything scrolling related sucks. I mean, part of had me thinking about this today as I was writing a little bit about scroll-driven animations, but like that is just not happening in here. I doubt the Figma team even thinks about it. Like they're like, it's hard enough to do the stuff that we do now. I'm sure their roadmap absolutely is not including diagramming scroll-driven animations. I mean, it'd be a different tool. There are tools that are for prototyping animation type of stuff. They probably are concerned about it. Maybe Figma does have an animation prototype tool they're working on. I don't know. It does seem like a growth potential thing for them, but who knows? So I guess that's just a massive one too, is just literally anything animation related, like a keyframe, a transition, anything at all. Like if it's an animation, it's just not happening in there. And that's just a massive thing to talk about, but I think it's also like easily understandable, right? I think that's just the deal there. Anything animation related. And then that has me thinking of, I just thought of another huge one, but it slipped out of my mind. There is, just to add to the list, I know we can't even see my list good. I could just change what I'm casting a little bit so you can see more, but I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's just, why do you need to see both anyway? I guess it doesn't really matter. I could just turn off the preview. Do you know you can do that? Just be like, we're just going to look at the editors only. So the default is split, but you can just look at the preview, just look at the editors, or split it. And of course, they can go on the top or go on the bottom or all that. Isn't that satisfying? Sweet. So let me do that and then shrink it a little bit. Easier to see. We'll see. Anything, maybe not anything, but content related choices. So there's like some classics in here, like headlines in a card component, like if it's exactly 2 lines in a prototype, You know, we have our little perfect little card. It has the perfect little corner radius, and there's like a perfect little image at the top with some trees and probably somebody who's like a little more attractive than they should be, you know, and they're on their kayak probably, almost for sure. And then the headline is perfectly in there, and it's like dog enjoying themselves on a kayak with lady or something. And we can't use that font anymore. We have to use Roboto. That's the official font of using it. And it's like bold. Yeah. Oops. Are you not in my... You gotta become in my frame. And then you have to go higher than the frame. And then this goes here. And then the text has to wrap. Okay, we did it. It's the perfect headline. Great. Get out of here. That's okay. That's what you see in Figma. But it would be a good design instead of a garbage design, of course. But it's like, that's cool. But like, what else? Ooh, why is it? Oh, my enormous component where's the obnoxious frame? Go away. There's that one. But then if this design was reflecting reality, there's somebody's going to have a headline that has Figma wants to see text and images copied to the clipboard. Yeah, that's cool. Figma, you can do that. I've never been asked if it's cool to... There's that. That's a problem. It looks bad now. What do? Do you change the font size? Do you update the CMS to not allow that? Do you use ellipsis? Like, is that stuff talked about in the design? What about, here's one where there's no headline. Does the design still look cool with no headline? Especially if it just goes right to the content below it. This type of thing of like what happens with different amounts and existence of content is tricky too. Because 99% of the time you're going to see that. But CSS people got to think about that. And that's weird and tricky. So headlines in a card component is a classic example. But there's like the lorem ipsum thing that's like, it's not real content. You used lorem ipsum, but you used the perfect amount. You used the perfect amount of it. Not too little, not too much. You got to deal with totally missing content. And then there's, back up to states. I'm thinking about content, and it's like one of the other kind of states is things that can happen as a website loads. What if it's the loading state or the error state? Those type of things are interesting too. Now that doesn't have anything to do with just like the state of a button. It has more about the state of like entire chunks of the page or potentially the entire page itself. Oh, my camera shut up. Oh, so many different things, isn't there? And the list is really just getting started. That's what I mean. There's just so many things that are, how do you even begin talking about this? If you had to make a list of like 10 things, if you're going to make a listicle for Smashing Magazine, what 10 things would you pick that are difficult to mock up and why? So can we find some? Like, can we just look at pages, and see if we can find some interesting crap. I thought I saw one earlier and that would be interesting. Okay, here's chicken.app. Turn customers into regular things. What does this do? These are, they looked like tabs, but they're not tabs. Like if I saw a Figma document that had this in it, I would think that like it has that pill thing. It almost makes me think that this red is going to slide over to the left when you click it. But really they're just, look, it made the whole thing disappear when I clicked magazine. So that was unexpected. What happens when I am on pricing? I'm on pricing, but it looks like I'm on get started, It's not that I hate this design. It's actually pretty cool. What does chicken even do? It makes you have a loyalty program for your... Oh my God, I would almost definitely use this if I had a food cart or something, just because the name is cool and I like this color. Use chicken, everybody. But there's one. I'm going to refresh the page. This thing comes sliding in. How are you going to tell that? If you're a designer, you're like, that's important to this website, is that as you load the page, the header comes in. Or as you hover over this, it's zooming into this image. Very difficult thing to explain in a design document. But we already have hovers, we already have state, we already have animations on our list. So I think that's covered. Ooh, although that's interesting. As you scroll, the header goes flying away. That's a scroll related thing that's hard to do. Interesting. So again, in Figma, that would be like, you have a little header bar at the top. You'd be like, here's my little mobile header, and it's definitely orange because our website is about chicken, and that makes sense. But yeah, here we go. We're going to have to explain it in Figma. We're going to have to be like, as you scroll down even just a little bit, this cool orange header animates up and out of view. I feel like that's what you have to do in Figma about that, if that's what you want to happen. That's almost better than having tooling in here to do it, because it's more communicative. Like, I just see this and be like, oh, okay. I guess I understand that that's what needs to happen. But I almost, in another world, I almost don't want to see this in Figma. I almost want to be like, can that conversation just happen in code? Can it happen in a GitHub issue or something? Or can it be, look, here's Emmett, the Y column. Where do we put the Y? Why do we want it to slide up? And like, where are we going to document that we agreed on that decision? Is it just a Notion card or something? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Mr. Vector Punk. Vector Funk, what's up, man? I'd prototype anything that's animated. To provide a good example. Yeah, that's what this comment is missing. CodePen link here. Hell yeah. Pretty cool. So we're just looking at things that would be hard to Figma eyes. We'll just look at a bunch of them, I guess. Ooh, this has a slideshow kind of thing, but they fade out. Ooh, that's nice. That's kind of cool how it's exactly the same size in each photo. Oh, people do such a good job. So what happens when you resize this bad boy? Yeah, looks like there's a fixed breakpoint in this one, which makes me feel like it makes me feel like it's probably Webflow. Does this have a Webflow smell about it? We'll see. Ooh, this is nice though. I like it when you can see the grid. The lines are nice. You don't need these gray lines, but they certainly do look nice. Ooh, and the just like very deep text indent. So classy. That's why I want to be a designer when I grow up. It's just little choices like that I'd never think of. I'd never think of doing this. This makes me think of that old school display value, display run in. Am I the only one in the world that still remembers that? I'm sure this is just floated or something. But it was like a display type it was a little bit like inline block, but it wasn't. And it meant that it would flow with the thing next to it. Anyway, it's got to have that. That's cool, but I feel like I've seen that enough times. Ooh, that's a nice hover. Look at that animation. So here we're covered. Hover is happening and animation is happening. So that's probably deserves to be on the list, is when we think about animation. Animations can be linked to other stuff on this list, like scrolling and state. So it's not just animation. It's like animations that happen because of interaction. Ooby doop doop. Does this have a cool? Oh, look at the scaling here is very interesting. It's almost like it literally scales. What is happening to this font? Is it getting narrower? It's very impressive how it's shrinking. Is it just getting bigger? It looked like it was getting narrower and it was freaking me out. Maybe it's just a trick of the eye. JT, thanks for joining us. Changing the cursor shape is also pretty difficult. How about cursors at all? That's not a bad one. How about like device specific, I don't know, thinking or something? Cursors. What cursor is on what element when you go over it? Here in the CodePen editor, there's all sorts of them. The fact that you can click that, can you see my cursor when I share it on, are you watching on Twitch or YouTube or whatever? That has a context menu on it. That's the cursors, which is reminding you, hey, I can right click that and there's a context menu. When you hover over this, the cursor goes to that. I can resize it. Oh, now I've clicked and I'm holding down. So it uses the Mickey Mouse grabbing cursor. We had to change that. There's a million of these. Then the grabby one indicates you can grab it and move it, the Mickey Mouse hand. Whereas then it goes to just the Mickey Mouse hand with the finger when you can close it. There's a zillion cursors in here. Oh, look, it went to the text cursor because you're over something where you can click it to type into. There's like 5, 6 cursors right there. Where is that in the Figma document? It's not, because is it just not a concern of a designer, or is it the concern of a designer? Does a designer care about that? They probably do. But again, where is it? You'd have to just be like, I don't know. You'd just be like, oh no, when they hover over this, then it turns into the Mickey Mouse hand or whatever. Okay. Check. What else are we seeing here? Chicken, you're done. Normal computing. I don't know. It's funny that we're looking at the designs of these websites and I don't even really know what they do. Like apparently you make chips, I guess. It's just we're not in that mode of thinking right now. I'm sure they're doing a fine job of doing what they're doing, but I'm just not in that mode. Tikka masala. Sometimes the smallest little ideas have the most kick-ass websites. Premium tikka masala in a jar. Don't hate it. This is the same thing. Look at the fact that like a very fancy chip manufacturer with the exploding chip crap going on is an equal web design treatment as some like Indian curry. That absolutely rules. Those things are probably $1,000 a pop, but this is probably like $6 a pop. And this design's almost cooler. A new angle of flavor. Anyway, that's not happening. How about that for the list? 3D. Not happening. Unwrap the adventure. Look at that. That'd be something that would almost be easier to mock up. Like I'm talking about the vines and the leaves and the trees and crap underneath here. That'd be something that my guess is that it's easier to do in Figma than it is in reality. And I know these days it's not that hard in CSS. You just go mask text or whatever. It's like a 3-liner to show like a gradient underneath it. Whatever you do to do gradient text can do this as well. Oh, that absolutely looks amazing though, doesn't it? It makes me think gradient text is out. I'm all about forest text now. That's all I care about. That's probably not, I wouldn't put that on the list. This is almost on the opposite list. Things that are easier to do in Figma than they are on the web or whatever. That like it encourages you to do. That's why we do use tools like Figma's. Because it gets your brain thinking about stuff like that, which maybe you're not in that brain mode otherwise. All right, Dave's asking, do you already have Figma doesn't do math? No, but what do you mean? Like calc and stuff? And like, is that under the like, almost like units? Should we put units and math? Like calc, min, max, min, max. Yeah. Calc. It does have variables, right? So I can't totally dunk on variables, although the implementation is weird. Yeah, clamp. But what are the other ones like? Sin, is it sin? Is it sin or sine? Why do you say sin, but it's really sine? Sine? What's the opposite of it? Cosine and others? Yeah, we could put that no variable math. So are you saying they have tan, A10. A10. I only know about A10 because it helps remove units in CSS in the weirdest way in the world. So Figma, you're saying they have variables, but you can't like say this variable times 2. Yeah, probably not. So that's pretty good. So 3D's out. Let's see what's going on here. What about like, yeah, that's interesting. This would be an example of display fixed. You know, the bag is always there. How do you express that? I don't know, but ooh, that header design it's got the same thing where the header slides away, but it has like the chillest easing I've ever seen. Look at the easing on this header. Ooh. That is some chill ass easing right there. That's kind of cool. This Google Pay button right here, I guarantee if you're in Safari, it would say Apple Pay. What about that? You know? Would that be under the device specific thinking, like Google Pay versus Apple Pay? Did you think about the different buttons and that kind of thing? I don't know. Kind of cool. This overlapping is interesting. But I guess the overlapping would be a kind of a responsive design issue, you know? Think about overlapping. What I mean by that is like, let's say the design calls for this overlapping. Surely they thought of this. This is a very talented designer that designed this site. And they decided it's cool that the text is overlapped right there. I think that's okay sometimes when a design's like, well, you can't read it. Well, you can read it. You just scroll down a little bit and then you can read it, you know? I just think things like that, there's a lot of nuance to things like this. But what if there's a certain size you could be at where it was like too overlappy, where you could almost never read it? Then it would be a problem. You know, that would be a difficult thing to do. That's nice. See, that's a scroll-driven animation where it's not just moving in. It's like the words, like on is on, but taste comes in. Oh, that is classy, classy, classy. What does this smell of? Let's get our web design, our CMS sommelier on. This smells a little GSAPy to me, doesn't it? But maybe not this. What do you call these things? What's that tool that people use to like put their little fancy movie animations in there? Lottie? Is that Lottie? God, that rules. The sploosh was begging for it there. Rive? I don't even know what Rive is. Oops, not that. I look at that guy's face a lot, though. I'll tell you what. Rive. I thought, oh. Oof. Whoa. What even is this? Do I know what this is? Is it like Webflow? But like with animations? Oh, this looks fancy. I'm kind of scared of it. Oh, clearly they're buddies with Figma. Maybe they're trying to get bought by Figma. What is the new Amazon? I was trying to find it earlier and I wasn't finding it. That's not Kilo. Amazon has their own little AI editor now. What is it? Kiro. Thanks, Fireship. Kiro. Again, somebody forked VS Code, this time Amazon, and they're going to make $1 billion. That's what big companies do. They fork VS Code and they make $1 million. So I was thinking, when you said Kiro and Kive, whatever it is, it confused my brain. Oh, look at that. Do they line up when they hit the edge? Oh, yeah, they do. Ugh. But right at the last minute, like you want it so bad, and then it does it. No filler, no shortcuts, just bold taste. So they reuse this. This is their thing. Oh my God. This is almost hilarious. Like clearly the nicest website ever created for a single product. Somebody had a friend. Somebody's like, I make a good tikka masala. I'm thinking of selling it. And like the world's most talented designers, like, yeah, I could do something for you. Like they were just at a dinner party together one time. and they had a friend in Artemi. What is your name? You should get credit. So many credits. Oh. Look, if you click here, you don't get it, but if you click here, you get it. Artie. Oh, we knew you were good. Look at you, one of those designers that's so fancy you can use 2 fonts in 1 word. That's how good you are. I feel like looking at all their websites, but we ain't got time for that today. Did we learn anything? Oh, look at that. That's a CSS concern. I don't think that would be terribly hard in Figma, or at least you could, get the gist of it. But this is, isn't that mix blend mode difference or something? Well, how are we feeling about blend modes for this list? Is blend mode something you can do in Figma easily? Is there a thing for blend mode? I mean, there definitely is in Photoshop, so I'm not that worried about it because this isn't just the Figma list. It's more about that. Oh, I see. Rive is Lottie plus interactions. Okay. All right. So when people say Lottie, you're like, Lottie's old news. It's all about Rive now. I'm not going to put mixed blend mode. I'm not going to put blend modes on the list because I feel like, yes, CSS can do them, but they're almost better done in design tools, So not a big concern there. That is rad. Look at the Hungry Tiger go over this photo. Oh, that rules. Oh, I love it so hard. Oh my gosh. Okay, enough Hungry Tiger. It is making me a little hungry too. Hilarious. All right, let's look at a couple more of these things. I'm thinking of where would you put a typing animation? Those seem to be pretty hip. Would that just go into the animation related thing? That would be very trendy. It'd be something you'd almost definitely want, a designer would definitely be thinking of and want to do in their Figma. But how would you do it? Would you just explain it? Would you do the thing where you prototype it and put a link to the prototype? Yeah, probably. All right. Oh, I was going to add this to the list. Anything media related. This is clearly a video in the background of this. Does Figma let you put a video in the background of it? No, it does not. Neither does any design tool. So maybe we'll call this media, and that's 3D, but clearly there's video and audio. Audio is almost in a category of its own. Because it's not just an audio element. It's little sounds when you click and whatever, when you do events, that is absolutely not the on the list of things the design tools can do is the little sound stuff. Okay, does this site have sound? No. You're viewing. Now that's an interesting hover state. So we could put that on the list. I think that deserves it. Is a hover state that's not just about itself, it's a hover state for other things. So as I hover over this link, it's got its own hover state, and perhaps we could express that simply in the component, in the Figma component. We could say it's got 2 states, and this state is when you hover over it, it displays whatever this is, the artist name underneath it, but it also grays out the entire page. That's cool. That's a cool web design thing that would be hard to express in a flat design document. So it's state, but it's state state that affects more on the page than itself. Is that the way to say that? That's very interesting. That's why we're looking at websites, apparently. Interesting. Some overlappy stuff there. That seems on trend for whatever reason. Perhaps some max width here. And then as you scroll, it's changing the background. So it went from a video to this looks like it's not a video. That's interesting. Now, is it loading something, or is it just decide to be black here? I don't know. I don't even know what we're looking at, really. Now it's starting to look like it's a, what did they call those crypto pieces of art? It looks like an NFT, doesn't it? It's probably very much not an NFT, but it's a piece of digital art. So I definitely like the idea of showcasing digital art as a first-class citizen of the art world. That's good. Is that what's happening on this website? Is that what it is? I'm going to inquire. Canvas is a new generation of display dedicated to precisely rendering a continuous flow of movement. Curation is a living body of work developed in collaboration with the... Okay. A number of layer canvases are currently on exhibit. Is it some kind of like super badass display technology that they make, then they put up in an art gallery or something? What is it different than just a monitor? Oh, look, they answered my question immediately. Not just another television screen. The minimalist square, form, and gallery quality materials give it an art dedicated to a place in the home. Yeah, but it probably is just a TV. It's not like no, maybe not. We pioneered layer grade. Do you think they actually designed a new TV though? It seems a little bit unlikely. Oh, wah wah. That seems probably not what they were hoping for there. Anyway, it's a nice design, but we're on the prowl for things that would be hard to mock up in design software. We didn't find a whole lot here. That's a loading state. Yes. Oh, this website's crazy. There's a lot. Look at how weird and horrible these fonts are. That's on purpose, right? Certainly. JT says we should go over to Josh's website and check out the magic wand on the subscribe button. Josh. Okay. Do I have to go to your homepage? The magic wand on the subscribe button. Subscribe. No subscribe button. Where's the wand? Is it down at the bottom? I feel like I've seen wand. See? Ooh, these are nice. A little easing on that RSS. That makes you want to subscribe to something, doesn't it? Where's subscribe? Is it that? Nope. Just links. Just blast the XML. Hell yeah, Josh. That's how I like mine too. Later on, Mr. Dave. I don't know. But the thing about Josh is that like that's his whole thing, is teaching you about web design. And, he's definitely going to be doing some fancies. Let's see if we can think of anything else to add to the list for now, and then we'll call it. Okay, some animation, some constantly running animation. That's kind of an interesting type of it. Different than triggered by an interaction or a scroll or anything. That's just constantly going. Ooh, you zoom out. God dang, websites are so cool. Look at how classy that is. Oh my gosh, and it's like parallax too. Ugh. I'm not sure that I would be able to do that. Do you think it's just layered JPEGs, or do you think it's some WebGL fanciness that I have no business doing? Can we see from the network tab if it's a bunch of JPEGs? Oh, look at that. Preview. So that. I don't know. There's an awful lot of them. Maybe they are just layered, but they're not alpha transparent. Oh, look, it's like a movie. Boop, 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 boop. That's pretty smooth, though. It felt smoother than that. Oh, maybe what it does is it like scales it a little bit, and then it swaps it out for another one. I don't know, though. They look layered. Damn, that looks good as hell. And really, it's about some boring coding thing. Not boring for me, but probably most of the world. Dang, this is classy. Okay, so we have some position fixed going on. We have some animations going on. We have some unusual, these are definitely scroll driven animations. We have snap states. That's what we were looking for. One last thing that we can do is well, I guess we could put it under the scrolling category. Anything scrolling related, snap states, that you could definitely not deal with that in a design tool. Like the way to express that is way too complicated. Is parallax? Look, there's even more parallax there. I like how this is suggestive of parallax, getting you ready for that kind of thinking. And then down here is totally different. It's not a nature scene, but it's still parallax. That's just like a really classy design callback. And this is what I meant by the kind of the pseudo typing look. That seems on trend. Some more parallax. Absolutely beautiful. Really, really cool. So we got our list, I guess. That's nice. Ugh. Designers really know what they're doing these days. It's like now I'm starting to think, no, now that we're at the bottom, you're like, okay, a little too much. Like, did that absolutely have to animate in? Are we now at the too much territory or not? Ooh, now the ending's gonna be amazing too, huh? Night is falling. It's getting darker and darker. Oh, and it's just kind of a way to say our app has dark mode too. But that was classy as hell. A random pier at the bottom, sure. That's like looks like it's lighting the footer. That's like the nicest website I've seen in a minute. That's great. People still have to put Twitter in parentheses. That's wonderful. All right, so we got a pretty good list. I think that's good enough. I don't know what to do with it yet, but that's kind of the nature of this stream, is to like think about this type of thing. And maybe we could make a bunch of buckets, and those buckets are thing. And the idea would be to produce a document that's like, hey, look, designers, you probably already know this, but we're going to just put it all out there. These are the list of things that this design tool is like kind of bad at. And not in an understandable way, in a way that's fine. Like, just don't worry about it, but do what you can do here. And then let's go through this list and make sure the things on this list are being thought about too, that you know that you can do these things because this thing is bound for a digital screen. So does anything in here need to be position fixed? Let's talk about that. Does anything in here need to be really fluid? Let's talk about that. Where are the animations? We got to talk animations. We're having a meeting just for animations. You know, that type of thing, so that we can use this tool for what it's good for, and then move on from there. Probably documenting somewhere, putting this stuff in the Y column. All right, I guess that's all I have. I know there's some comments here that I wasn't able to get to. I appreciate everybody hanging out for this. It's been really cool. If you have any thoughts on that, feel free to hit me up. Maybe we'll do a proper Q&A one of these. I'm not sure there's enough people that care about this stream to do a full-on Q&A yet. You know, maybe once we get 25 people watching, it'd be worthy of a Q&A, but probably not yet. Anyway, and then we started this looking at the new editor here, and the fact that you can just randomly write some markdown in the middle of a HTML document is brought to you by the CodePen Beta. Shoot me an email if you want beta access to it. All right, later on, friends. Really appreciate you hanging out on a Friday.